someone from the US is coming to Spain on a tourist visa. They decide that they love Spain and they want to apply from Spain for the digital nomad visa. Can they apply from Spain, or would they need to fly back to their home country?
This happens a lot. People are just fell in love with the country, they want to stay, but...
And so based on that, how do you quickly identify if someone is a good fit for the digital nomad visa?
Well, for digital nomad visa, there are 4 things that mostly are non-negotiables. So first, we need a good contract. Then we must obtain an authorization letter, which...
Big headache to my audience. It's about the timeline and waiting time.
Most likely, it physically wouldn't give us the time to gather the documents because particular documents need to be legalized. And this legalization can take...
Is there any recent updates when it comes to digital nomad visa that people should be aware of, or things haven't changed?
The first of all, as I mentioned,
Could I go on ChatGPT and translate everything myself?
No. Unfortunately, the only document that can be translated by ChatGPT, if you will, is the...
Hello everyone and welcome to Coming to Spain. So I'm Laetitia and I'm really happy today to have Sabine Steinberger, who's joining us today. And Sabine moved to Spain from Latvia and now lives in Benidorm. And she's also the first point of contact that people talk to at bureaucracy.es before starting their visa process. So Sabine is your go-to person because she understands what it is like to move to a new country. And she's here to share some tips and to make those first steps to make your life in Spain a lot easier. But today's topic is going to be particularly around the digital nomad visa. And she's going to be breaking down everything from eligibility, document that actually matters, timeline, and mistakes that she's seen and her team have seen that cause the most delays. She will reveal at the end the most single common mistakes applicants make that can result in your visa getting rejected. So make sure you stick around until the end so you don't miss on that bit. But before we dive in, I really want you to meet the person behind the expertise, and that's Sabine. So thanks for being here, Sabine.
Thank you, Laetitia, for having me today. It is exciting to speak about the visa and to share our knowledge to your viewers.
Amazing. And what I'm excited about is myself, you are also an expert on immigrant or however you want to call it, but you've moved from, in your case, I've moved from France to Spain and you moved from Latvia to Spain. So I'd love to hear what brought you in Spain and why, and also why you decided to settle in Benidorm, because I understand that this is where you're based right now.
Well, to be honest, my reasons are not very different from from what most of the people are followed with, and that's family. I mean, I was very young. I was a teenager. My parents came here to look for a better job, the typical family looking for better life. Obviously, we are working with people outside of Europe, so my moving was maybe a bit more straightforward.
Yeah.
But I mean, I came here, I started to study, the language, and I think my main reason why I call it home right now is the culture. It's the people. Here the living is so full of sunshine, more relaxed, and sometimes it gets against us. I know, this slow way of living, which makes a lot of patience, but generally it's the main reason why I also love it here, because here people enjoy life and they focus on, the family, the vacation, the beer in the bar, and the conversations, all these little things that make it worth it. Definitely.
No, definitely, and I've also seen that. I've been living in Spain for about 7 years in Barcelona, and from the cultural shock, I think what got me was how laid back. I mean, you still have to work hard. There's still this culture of working hard, play hard. But compared to other countries, people really enjoy their life. Now, as we speak, it's August. People are full on enjoying summer. I think Spain literally shuts down in August. So it's a nice honestly a nice place to be, so I can definitely understand your reasons.
Yes, and on that note, what you mentioned, it is a very big myth saying that in August everything shuts down.
Okay,
So
okay.
there are part of people that go on holiday the first quarter of August and then the second. So our company at least, keeps working, and the immigration offices as well. Like a bit more slower than usual, but they do keep working. So if you plan to come in summer, no worries, it's still doable.
That's amazing. No, that's amazing, because definitely there's some area. I mean, I can speak as a working mom. There's no daycare available. Things get slower, but it's good to know that you guys are still up and running. I hope this gets people excited about Spain, because now we're gonna, get into the good stuff and why you're here today. And just to help, if there's anyone out there who's thinking to move to Spain and thinking maybe the digital nomad visa might be right for them, so we're just gonna break it down and you're just gonna kind of explain us a bit of the process and how it works. So my question is, when someone reaches out to you first, what do you actually do for them? Like, how do you help them from day one?
Most of the time, people reach out to us whether they are just thinking about the idea of I would want to, but I'm not sure, and to decide on which visa would be good for them. And especially regarding the digital nomad visa, the people who have been researching a lot, just to kind of like searching for reassurance if what they have researched is actually true. And we offer a free consultation. So you can find us on our website, send us an email, or there's a contact form as well. But typically, you can register, and that's the best way to do. So this ensures us to give us enough information to be able to assess you the best way. Just schedule a meeting with us to have this free consultation, half an hour, 20 minutes, just to understand your current situation. To let us know when are you planning to move, what is your situation, what are your plans, so that we can assess you on the timeline is very important, on some basic requirements that are must-haves, and we can take it from there. If you're ready to move on, we can start on the process, and if you still need to figure out some things, then we will let you know like what needs to be done before application.
Amazing, because I think something that I get asked a lot from my readers and people who reach out to me, like this like half an hour free call is really important, because they want to be told before jumping in on a very expensive process. If in this call you can already tell them, hey, from the information that you're giving me, you're not suitable, and I recommend that you do that. So it's good that on that call it can be you can get some actionable insights to move forward, or perhaps just wait a bit, gather the relevant information before you move on. So I think it's a really good way for them to get started.
Thank you. And we are totally transparent on each and every like aspect of the process, and to be honest, that's what we ask of our potential clients as well, to let us know the real situation so that we can assess them the best way.
So then if a case is risky, you kind of set expectation from day one. If there's some gray area, you would always say, okay, this might be tricky. So from day one, they can expect full transparency from you guys.
Exactly. Yes. If there is, obviously at the first glance in the first meeting, I do not review the document. So at that point, if I see something would be a red flag, I would definitely highlight that. And if I have the information, I will share what is needed to be done. However, like if there is no issues, nothing that seems to me that there would be any problems, at the time when we start the process, the case manager is going to review everything in detail. And that is also the moment when we look carefully into each and every person's situation. And if there's anything that seems to be maybe being a problem, we will definitely give you the information on how to resolve this. But in general terms, if it's a good case and there's a really, really like small chance that we cannot resolve it. There's also always something we can do about it.
Okay, that's great. That's reassuring. That's reassuring. So now let's talk about we're here to talk about today, which is the Spain Digital Nomad Visa. So I'd love for you to give us an overview of what it is and what does the Digital Nomad Visa allow someone to do in Spain.
Well, in general, the Digital Nomad Visa is designed for people where their current job position allows them to do their work 100% remotely. Okay. And This is basically based on the finances that you are going to receive from your salary. And to mention that if one client doesn't give you enough financial means, you can always present 2, 3. The sky's the limit. Okay, my tops is 10 clients. Okay, let's leave it there. But I mean, you're not tied to the one client. You can present more than one. This visa allows you to live here in Spain, work for your abroad company. If you're bringing your family, your partner is allowed to work here in Spain, or even open up a business if that would be the plan. So it's always good to have that open door. As well, this gives you the direct pathway to the citizenship. So either if you are a citizen from Ibero-American countries, that's 2 years, or USA, for example, permanent residency in 5 years. So if you are looking forward to move to Spain really long term, this is a very good opportunity. And yes, basically, it gives you wide open door to live here, but still maintaining your career in your home country.
And so based on that, like, how do you decide, or how do you quickly identify if someone is a good fit for the digital nomad visa?
Well, for digital nomad visa, there are 4 things that mostly are non-negotiables, because the UGE, the Unidad de Grandes Empresas, which is the authorities that process these visas, they're not flexible at all. So first we need a good contract, a contract between your employer or your client. Then we must obtain an authorization letter, which in many cases people are a bit like confused about, but this is a simple document that actually shows that your client or your employer is aware of your plans and that you want to work from abroad and that you can do it 100% remotely. Then definitely financial means is a most important thing, because if your salary is not enough, if it's slightly under the minimum threshold, you can back it up with savings, but then it's savings for 2 years. So technically it's best if your salary is above the minimum, and then there's no issues. And the 4th thing is a diploma or 3 years of experience. So there's a big confusion that you need to provide both. However, it's one or the other. In many cases, there are people who are working in a different field than they studied. In this case, if you have well-documented 3 years of experience, no issues, but we need to prove the previous contract and also some kind of a job history from the government documents, which can be a tax return or social security statements, but we can discuss those in detail afterwards. But yes, those 4 things are the first things that I make sure of, because the rest of the things can kind of like we can get it done. But those 4 things are very important.
And can you clarify on the first bit? So you talked about a contract, but I've read and I've heard from many of my clients that something that you need to have had work with this client or with this company for at least, I think it's a minimum of 3 months to be eligible to be. So it cannot be, so you can't, let's say you just started working with a client or with a company, you would have to wait for 3 months before being able to submit for the contract to be valid.
Yes, but to be honest, this is not a big issue, so to say, because let's say now with the 1st of September, we get the contract signed. Then September, October, November, by December, you are able to apply. And in general terms, it takes up to 2-3 months to gather the rest of the documents and the legalizations. So by the time everything is done, your contract most likely will be already 3 months old. But one thing I didn't mention is that the company that you work for or your client must be at least 1 year old. So it cannot be a recently opened company. 1 year has to be registered. Okay, this is, well, I didn't mention it initially because we haven't find it a really big issue. Typically, the companies have been already working for a few years, so, but it's good to mention.
And well, more questions around the applying for the digital nomad visa. So so many people, this is a scenario that I hear a lot. So for example, someone from the US is coming to Spain initially on a tourist visa. So they're coming for 90 days, they have 90 days to be in Spain. And then on day 18 or the 18th day, so they've got 10 days left, they decide that they love Spain and they want to apply from Spain for the digital nomad visa. Can they apply from Spain, or would they need to fly back to their home country and apply via the consulate in their home country?
Well, it's interesting that you have mentioned this, because this is the biggest problem or issue that we find, because this happens a lot. People are just fell in love with the country, they want to stay, but unless you have prepared yourself to obtain all the documents prior, most likely it physically wouldn't give us the time to gather the documents, because particular documents need to be legalized, and this legalization can take minimum 2 weeks. Like it even with the private company who can get it done faster, it takes time. So it's important to apply before your tourist visa ends.
Okay.
The tourist days ends. Otherwise, it would be a problem.
Okay.
So in those cases, what we suggest is, if when we see that we don't have enough time, this person unfortunately needs to leave the Schengen area,
Okay.
prepare all the documents, and then come back and we can apply. Because otherwise it would lead to rejection. It
Okay.
just doesn't give us enough time.
And this is again a side note, that something that comes to me, because this I keep on getting asked that question. Once they've left the Schengen area, once they spend those 90 days, when can they come back technically? Like, do you have like a buffer where you need to stay in your country and then to be able to come back, or how does it? Do you know a bit about that?
It's technically, it says 90 days in 180-day time.
Okay.
So it's 90 days each semester.
Okay, got you. Yeah, because I always get that question. It's like, okay, how long can I stay, etc. Okay, and then another thing also that gives big headaches to my audience, it's about the timeline and waiting time. Because one thing is, I think in everyone's kind of like best case scenario is like, I'm going to apply and the process is going to be fairly quick. But I've heard, and I keep seeing on Facebook and everywhere, and from my clients, that there's some big delays when it comes to getting an appointment in the consulate. For example, the San Francisco consulate, I keep hearing about it, of people applying on a daily basis for 3 months in a row and not getting an appointment. What do you know about that? How long does it usually take?
Well, it is true. It's still the case. The appointments at the consulates are very hard to obtain. But I must say, it's especially hard in summer, but this has a reason. Between the holidays that the workers, the staff has, the consulates spend most of their energy on student visas.
Okay.
And that is why there is less appointments available for other visas, because
Okay.
first for the appointments and then also the timing that they process the visas. But the consulate in general has 3 months time to process the visa. I understand that the patience and after everything is done, the waiting is the worst. That is true. But I have to say that is the main reason also why we recommend applying from within Spain. Because when you apply from within Spain, the visa will be processed in 20 business days.
Oh, wow.
It's very fast. And if they do not answer in 20 business days, we submit the administrative silence request, which means that the visa should be approved.
Amazing.
So if they don't give us an answer, that's automatically an approval.
That's great. So that would say that, to go back to my old scenario, like if someone wanted to expedite the process, they knew that they were coming to Spain for 90 days. If they started like gathering the paperwork and everything, and then apply for the digital nomad visa, once they arrive at the beginning of their terms, they could be getting their digital nomad visa by the end of the 90 days.
Yes, for sure. And I have to mention here that even if your tourist days end, the limit is to submit the visa at least 1 day before your Schengen visa or your tourist days end. But once the digital nomad visa is submitted, even if your tourist time has expired, you are not overstaying your visa. You are waiting till your visa is processed. So this does restrict you on traveling. You would need, while the visa is processing, you need to finalize the process with the TIE card. However, you are legal here. It doesn't give you any, like, you shouldn't worry about that. You are legal here while your visa is approved and you are processing the final steps. Okay, so even if the Schengen visa is granted for a week, it still works. The main goal is to do all the preparation of the paperwork before you actually come, just in case.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So then, no, it's a very good trick because, like I said, the consulate part in the US has been keeping a lot of people awake. So it's a good one. It's a good tip. And when speaking of other tips and other changes, like I've heard that there were some recent updates, changes, like well, is there anything that you can share if there's been, as of 2020, as we're recording this as of August 2025, is there any recent updates when it comes to digital nomad visa that people should be aware of, or things haven't changed? I don't know if the updates were more related to the non-lucrative visa, but I just wanted to know if there's anything that we should know to be making sure that we are up to date on everything.
Well, to be honest, the recent Virgin law changes didn't affect so much the digital nomad visa, as you said. It mostly affected the non-lucrative visa. However, it did change in the wording of the law, kind of like confirming some things. And one thing it was actually beneficial was that before it was more restrictive for families. It was really needed to have a marriage certificate. If not, then it was quite risky to apply. However, now it does say that if your relationship is very easily to prove, if you even if you haven't married, that you are living in the same address, maybe the tax returns are done together, the IDs has the same address, especially if you have kids together and you're bringing all your family. Now it's not so risky. It is okay to submit this way. You're not necessarily needed to be married. And also, but this is something that maybe I just want to mention and to open up a door for other people who were not, there was a real strict restrictions of this, but non-profit companies were not accepted before. However, now, as long as the nonprofit company is still registered as an official company, they are operating as the same as any other company, it can be possible that the digital nomad visa also is approved. So if you can provide the good standing certificate, the company is registered, they're paying you salary as any other company would, it is not anymore such a closed door on the nonprofit companies. So that's something we really want to give this advice, so we can look into each and every situation to evaluate better, but
Yeah.
it's not anymore a red flag.
The number one reason why people's application to the digital nomad visa tend to be rejected, so that hopefully they don't get theirs rejected. So could you share with us what you've seen with your clients, or what you've seen out there that usually trips off people?
Well, I have to say that our agency is not seeing a lot of rejections in general. So I believe instead of what are the reasons of being rejected, it's like things that we should do better to get our approvals like more straightforward, okay? But I mean, one thing that we already discussed is definitely timing. We should prepare ourselves with time, because time bites ourselves in our back. That's why we wouldn't be able to apply at a good timing. Then definitely the salary, financial means, they need to be well documented and above the minimum required. Criminal records, in many cases, if the criminal records were a long time ago and it was, a little thing, that it won't affect. But unfortunately, if there has been some more serious things in the past, then there is a big risk of getting actual rejection. Even if we see and we submitted a closure, a dismissal, or whatever, in some cases it can drive to a rejection. And then it's the preparation of the work, and I think that is basically it. Those are the most important things that maybe sometimes we cannot change, but all the rest, with time, always time, we can figure out.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I want to get a bit practical for this part, because I know that sometimes this is what I'm lacking. Sometimes when you listen to those, you listen to podcasts, you listen to content, and it's all well and good, you get excited, but I love like a bit of practicalities, like, and in this case, like, let's say that we're packing up a document folder today, like for the digital nomad visa, like what goes in the folder, just to do a bit of a recap for people listening to us today.
Okay, well, the first of all, as I mentioned, the contract, then the authorization letter, then the diploma. Hopefully, we have the diploma. Obviously, we need to legalize these documents. Okay, the diploma needs to be legalized. The good standing certificate of the company needs to be legalized. If we are coming with our family, the marriage certificate, if there is one, birth certificates. So we need to think about that each governmental official document needs to be legalized. Okay, it's like a notarization, and this is a confusion that many people don't know what is the apostille. So it's a
Exactly.
legalization of an official governmental document, such as when we need to notarize a personal document. It's the same for the governmental official documents. Okay, then we need to think about that the bank statements and the invoices of our payments. That's how we will prove that we received this salary. And there are some forms, but you don't have to worry about those because we will do them for you. And yes, in general, if you're an employee, then we need to think about the private health insurance. If you are self-employed, that won't be needed. And this is also very important, something I didn't mention before. You can apply either being an employee or self-employed, but there is a big difference, because if you're an employee, you will be still paying taxes in your home country. However, if you're self-employed, you will have to pay taxes here in Spain, which also gives you the access to the public healthcare and public schools if your kids are coming along. So you will pay more. It will affect your budget, but it also gives you a lot of benefits here in Spain if you actually plan to stay for a long term.
You read my mind, because someone actually, when I was preparing this conversation, I was kind of gathering questions, and I had been asked, especially for a US self-employed worker, they were asking about would that count the same way in Spain for the digital nomad visa if I'm self-employed for tax purposes. So they were asking the difference, but you've just nailed it in terms of the differences between self-employed and then an employee. So that's great. Now, my last question on our folder, which I think it's very clear, what out of those documents, which one do need to be translated to Spanish?
I have to add one thing that I didn't mention, the criminal record,
Yes.
which is really important. Okay, the criminal record is the first thing that we need to do, because that's the document that most time consuming is. The apostille for this document can take up to 2 months. Okay, but in general, the documents that we need to translate for this is all the governmental official documents. So
Okay.
anything we apostilled before legalized needs to be translated. However, the contract obviously needs to be translated, but in some cases, if the contract is very long and there's no use to translate so many pages, we can kind of re-sign and do a statement of work. We have templates that are bilingual, so you don't need to translate necessarily everything and waste time and, of course, money. So we will try to find the ways to only translate what's necessary, okay? So, but definitely, to answer your question, all the governmental documents must be translated. Contract depends, and really that's it.
And when it comes to translation, by who? Like, could I go on ChatGPT and translate everything myself, or does it need to be translated
No.
by somebody?
Unfortunately, sorry to interrupt. Unfortunately, the only document that can be translated by ChatGPT, if you will, is the resume. Okay, the CV. Yes, we don't have to do it by official person. However, all the governmental documents must be translated by a sworn translator registered for the Spanish government. And there is a page that you can check it. But I have to say, if you decide to engage with our services, that is not needed, because we are going to take care of that, okay? We have our own translators. We will send the documents to translate, and typically it takes about a week. And there's also part of the cost in the translations that we cover. So I would like to say that the translations is the less of a worry that the client must have.
Amazing, and that's a great time for me to kind of remind people that, you know, if you're not sure when it comes to how to get your application back on track or get started, you really don't have to figure it out alone. As you know, as I mentioned, Sabine, she's been doing this for a year, and at Bureaucracy, this is what they do. I mean, I've referred a lot of my clients to them. I've only had good and positive feedback, so that's why I'm really excited for you guys to, you know, get their support. And I also wanted to let you know, all of you, that for my listener, like, there's a 10% discount. So I'll be putting in the description a link where you guys can kind of book a free appointment. You might get to speak to Sabine or someone else, but I think it's a good way to get started, because as she said at the beginning, there's no string attached, and you can expect full transparency, meaning if you don't qualify, or if the initial document show that you might need more, you might need to do a bit more work, they will let you know. And if you get the green light, it's a good place to start with them. So I just wanted to give you guys a shout out before we kind of go into the last part of this conversation. How do you support with the post visa application?
Well, I have to say, technically, our services end once your visa is approved. Okay, that is where our service is completed. However, it's not like we are going to shut our doors and not answer any emails anymore. And we have created a free guide that will help you to know what are the next steps.
Amazing.
To finalize the process, which is the padrón, the certificate of residency, and then the appointment at the police station as well. So we have created a guide that shows you what is needed, how to do it. However, if the person does decide that, first of all, they don't want to do it on themselves, or they need help, we do have some companies that we can refer to that will be very happy to help you, and people can find that on our service area in the dashboard as well.
Amazing. So I'll make sure to also kind of, if I can get the information, link that back in the description. And I'd love to hear also, Sabine, because like I said, you've been working with so many clients. Is there any stories or any recent cases that stood out to you, and why, in terms of any clients that you've been supporting lately when it comes to applying for the digital nomad visa? Do you have any kind of anecdote to share with us?
Well, I mean, typically, and this is something we touched before as well, that the situation where the person is in love with the country, is here in Spain, and they're like, hey, I want to apply, and kind of like everything in rush. So there was one case where actually it was a family that were already in Spain. They were working with another lawyer, and like, they were in a very risky situation. We had only 2 weeks to prepare the documents, and their visa days were ending, and we actually submitted the visa 1 day before their visa days ending. So it was quite stressful, so to say. I wouldn't want to try that again for my mental health. But I mean, there is so much information on there online, and especially depending on the consulate that you're working with, depending on, like, there's so many information. It's definitely to try to focus on one official source of information to avoid any stresses. And one thing that is very important is the entry stamp, especially, well, when we are planning to apply from within Spain. So Spain must be the first country in Schengen area, because the stamp is very important. In many cases, we have had to ask our clients to leave and come back.
Wow.
So imagine you are already in Spain, you're waiting your submission, and we must say to you, no, you need to travel outside of Schengen area and come back again, because if you do not have that stamp, you only have 72 hours to obtain an entry letter, okay? Which in many cases, because of Spanish bureaucracy, is not so straightforward to get. So if you're planning your travels by car, you need to know that you need to go to the police office to obtain this letter. But in many cases, unfortunately, it has been very much a headache, okay? So it's good to think about the travels and to have this information to ask us so we can guide you through, because there's so many details. And I know I'm speaking a lot.
No, please,
But
please.
just to kind of like make it more easier, we know, and I know it seems so overwhelming to look at it, the big picture. So my advice always is to take it step by step, and it will be much more easier, just one step at a time, because everything together is a very big ball of stress.
And actually, that's something that I really liked about your services. When looking at your platform and the way you guys are a bit different from what we know as immigration lawyers, is that within your dashboard there's like different steps in which you're asking people to submit documentation, which I think to me makes it so much less overwhelming, because you have a bit of a roadmap. So maybe can you walk us through the process in terms of how you guys work in order to help your clients gather the data, move them through the different steps, and in terms of like timeline, what they can expect.
Of course. Well, we generally advise our clients, our potential clients, to start or to engage with our services 6 months prior to the actual moving date. And if your plan is to apply from the consulate, that may go to 7 or 8 months. Okay, so we need to plan ahead. But then again, it's not good to plan too much time ahead, because some documents have expiration date. Okay, so the maximum time is 6 months to start gathering the documents. But I mean, the first step is contacting us, registering on our platform, there's a quiz that kind of like gives you the answer whether or not you are eligible or not. And if you are eligible, you are able to schedule this free meeting. If you have questions, obviously, if you want to have this first contact, if you are ready to start, you can go on a platform, register, and you will be able to see that our service fees are divided in 3 payments as well. And this is mainly that it's a thing of a confidence. You do not need to pay the full price while you haven't received the full price. So you will pay the full price only once your visa is approved. So the first payment is a really small amount. After that, you will receive, in a couple of days, you will receive a contact from your case manager, who is going to schedule a meeting with you to give you all the detailed information. So we have a checklist organized by priority. So you will be able to see where you need to get the document, what you need to get, and how you need to get it. And we have templates. So our job is to make sure you do not have to keep researching and finding so many information. We will give it to you. We will break it step by step, what needs to be done. And then once all the documents are uploaded, we will send the documents to translate. Once we receive them, you arrive to Spain, we can submit your visa. By that time, in a month, it will be approved. Obviously, the communication is through our dashboard as well, if you have any questions. And one thing I want to give also is that, let's say you decided today that you want to start, but then in a few months something happened and you need to push back your timeline a little bit. Our services don't end there. We understand that life happens. So we want to make sure that people know that we are going to be there to hold your hand, so to say, to amend whatever the situation is, and to adjust to the person's life if that's needed.
Amazing. No, that's great. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is, and I'm hoping that this conversation has helped people, because I think the overwhelmed that comes with, you kind of have now access to so much information out there. You read and you feel like you know what you need to do. When it comes down to getting stuff done is the toughest part. So knowing where to start, knowing that someone can hold your hand, so to speak, and that can help you through the full process, to me is really what makes you stand out. So thank you so much, Sabine, and this was so helpful. So thank you for breaking things down in such a clear way, because again, that's what we need, clarity, when starting this type of process. And I think a lot of people listening to us hopefully will feel less overwhelmed. And again, if Spain is on your horizon, you know what to do. We've now broken down the document that you need to have in your folder. We've walked you through the quick eligibility checks, We talked to you about the translations, not leaving things to the last minute. We've given you a lot of information on not getting your visa rejected, and more importantly, we've given you some tips on accelerating, so to speak, the visa application. So we'll put everything I've mentioned in the description, and if anybody wants to reach out to you, Sabine, how can they do so?
Well, the best way would be to go on our website, which is bureaucracy.es, and you will be able to register there, which it doesn't has any cost. Okay, so you can register, see what the platform looks like, and you will be able to kind of like find on your own what is the eligibility of yours. However, if you prefer, you can just send us an email to hola@bureaucracy.es, and you will find that email on the website as well. Or there is also a contact form, which you can just send us your inquiries, and we can get back to you and guide you through the process. But definitely our platform, I have to say, it's a wonderful tool to work with, and from our client side as well. So that's the best option. And you can find our account on Instagram as well, the same, bureaucracy. And we post there tips, the new laws that come out, some confirmations, and in general information about the visa process and the visa types. So you can definitely follow us there as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sabine. Thank you for your time. And yes, hopefully we'll do more of this session and discussing about different visa.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Leticia. This was very exciting. I love to spread information and clarify some things. I truly hope that this helps a lot of families to fulfill their dream to come to Spain and enjoy this sunshine that we have here.
Brilliant. Thank you.